Live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW-LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC-LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schisler. I'm your host. I'm also a Silver Fox advisor and the founder of OneBestConsult.com. Thanks for taking time to join us today. This week in the Conroe, Montgomery County area, well, it's really beautiful out there. We're in the fall of the year, at least for a week. Who knows? We may go back to summer or we may skip ahead to winter. That's the Texas weather for us. We're broadcasting live from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio here in Conroe, Texas, one of the fastest growing cities in America. So it's a great, great place to be. Let me start the show with a little business thought I think that you could use today, entitled Lack of Time. I have been in more conversations lately, different groups, different roundtable groups I work with, mentor, about people not having enough time to get everything done. I think some of that's due to the pandemic, due to the pressure of not being able to hire enough good people in their business. So as an owner, you wear many hats. So there's some basic things that you can do, I believe. And one of them the other day, this first one came up in a conversation with a roundtable group, and that is leave white space. That was the name it was given on your calendar. In other words, don't book yourself up. Don't tie yourself down to a job where you can't get everything done. Leave yourself some breathing room every day, primarily to handle the things you can't anticipate. So white space, a good thing. Delegate or use third parties to handle some of the tasks that you do, especially ones you're not good at. You've probably heard that before, but I think it's more critical now. I am reading and talking to people, stories about businesses. They can't hire the people they need, so they're outsourcing certain things and then moving people around within the business. It is definitely a time to be creative. So don't forget about delegating or handing off to a third party certain functions in your business. And then the last thing is pace yourself every day, looking for opportunities to make yourself efficient. Fatigue, burnout, those words are popping up left and right. It's that kind of business environment. My thought on it is if we survive this, then we're going to really make hay when things turn around here in the near future. So lack of time, it's not really a problem for the world, it's a problem for you. Use your time more efficiently. There are ways to do that. The Weekly Business Hour is now where Montgomery County and businesses throughout the world now, as we have listeners in other countries, come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve their business, and to be part of conversations that we believe can make a real difference in your business even today. I want to remind you that the show is broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube, so if you want to watch as well as listen, go to one of those sources, look for the Weekly Business Hour page, click, and you will watch us live on Facebook or YouTube. And also, and I will mention this several times during the show, if you've got an observation about what we're doing, you got a thought, you got a criticism, or you just got a general business issue that you'd like to talk about, send me an email. Just send it to that's the number 1, bestconsult@gmail.com. bestconsult@gmail.com. Well, let's get this show on the road, so to speak. We've got some great guests in the studio today. I'm excited of the fact that we have a couple here, partners, spouses. Always an interesting theme to talk about partners, and even more interesting when you are married to your partner. So we're going to get into that a little bit later. But today we have Bernie and Melissa Sargent with us. They're the owners of Sargent Home Inventory Services. I think you're going to find what they do for a living very interesting in and of itself. Welcome, Bernie and Melissa, to the Weekly Business Hour.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it much.
Well, share a bit of your business history. What's your business background?
Well, let me.
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
turn this over to my wife, since how we are partners. She has to go first.
Well,
There
where
you go.
Where do we start? We've been in business together for 35 years. Well, we used to have a manufacturer representative business in El Paso, Texas. We're newbies to the Conroe area, and we worked in Mexico and the West Texas border, representing several different electronic component companies, and worked with large manufacturing companies like First Alert, smoke detector, medical equipment, all kinds of those items. But I'm going to throw this back to him because we're talking about this business today. And this started in 2010 when his parents had a disaster happen at their house.
Yeah, I got a phone call one morning. My mom and dad lived out in California, and the neighbor called to tell me their house had burnt down. So, being the son that I am, and like any human being would do it, I hurried on out to California. And when I got there, it was a mess. I mean, it was a disaster. They'd lived in that home since 1966. And so everything that they owned was either destroyed by smoke or fire. And being the age that they were, they didn't remember half of what they owned. And so I helped as much as I possibly could for a couple of weeks. And we tried to prepare an inventory for the insurance company of what we knew they had based on growing up in that particular area. And did the best we could. And I got back to El Paso, and I told Melissa, I said, that was just a total disaster. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And so we came up with the idea of doing an inventory. And there's several ways of approaching an inventory. And what we were doing, or what we started doing, was a video and a photographic inventory of the contents of the people's homes. So that way they've got something that they can turn over to an insurance company in the event of a catastrophe, like perhaps a hurricane, like they just went through in Florida. A lot of these folks are not going to have a clue what they lost. And that's disastrous because the insurance company is going to require as much information as they possibly can. Even a pictorial inventory will help. And so that's how we really got started with the business. And I would challenge a person to grab a piece of paper, walk into your kitchen, don't do anything but sit down with that paper and try to make a note of every room you have and everything you have in that room that you think is important or has some kind of monetary or emotional value. And then go into that room and look what you missed. And that's what we want to try to help people do, is alleviate that guessing game as to what they had as opposed to what they actually have. And so Melissa and I started doing that business in El Paso.
You know, a quick funny story. One, I can empathize with the fire. My wife and I went through that some years ago from a lightning strike to our home, and it burned the upper floor and where we had a lot of things stored. It was funny. My wife had to make the list that you're talking about. Extensive smoke damage, which of course physically you can still see most of the things. But it was an interesting experience with the insurance company. One of the things I think an inventory can help you with, and again, this is based on our experience, is when you make that inventory and if you try to put value, replacement cost on it, you might find that you're underinsured. That's what happened to my wife and I by the fact that we filed the claim. The insurance company worked right with us. They got a great relationship with my wife, and we basically used all the personal property coverage we had, and we were stunned because we had a lot of things that we could clean and reuse, particularly furniture and whatnot. So there's another great reason that I learned firsthand is to not, have a true value of what your property's worth as far as replacement cost of that property.
We've done work with different people over times for art collections, jewelry collections. Like you said, people are very underinsured. They don't realize how little. It may sound like a lot on your initial policy, but when it comes down to it, you really don't always have enough. And especially in art and jewelry, very, very tough to get full replacement unless you have receipts and all the details on that. And I mean, the insurance companies, real estate agents, even real estate agents, financial advisors, attorneys, police, and FEMA all suggest you get having an inventory. So, it crosses over many different areas because we've also done estates. We've done trusts for banks. We worked a lot with Frost Bank. Different types of problems, divorces, which is not fun.
That can be a challenge.
Yeah, different situations. But that's where we've always found when people, they're not quite sure of the concept, we come in and we look at their home and we give them an idea what it's going to cost and what's included in that, what they need to be looking for. And I'm turning away from you here. So I think that's important to keep in mind is when you're why have an inventory? Have us call. Give us a call. Either do it yourself, go around the house, take pictures with your phone, or have somebody like us come out and give you an idea what it is you need to have inventoried properly.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of it because, like in our case, again, our specific situation, we didn't have anything that was really expensive. I mean, we had 6 kids, and I mean, we were living in a big house because we had 6 kids. But again, just the amount more so of furniture and different things. Plus, the upper floor was kind of a storage area, so we had I had 2 sets of golf clubs, and they'll replace both of them. You know, not that I wanted, I only got 1 set because I didn't need the other set. It was an old set. But we had furniture stored for our kids because they start leaving to go to college and whatnot. So we had old pieces. So I think we got 4 couches and were destroyed. But you just don't know. And I see a real need for professionals such as y'all to come on in and help guide us through that process to be sure when and if something happens, like to your parents or happen to my wife and I, because there's enough in those kind of catastrophes to deal with than having to start sweating how to.
Well, another thought too, Rick, is when you look at a home, sometimes the insurance companies, they're somewhat cautious on paying you. I mean, they're not in the business to write checks. And you'll walk in and say, I had a 48-inch television set, a Sharp on the and it really was like a 27-inch. So you want to make sure that the insurance agent and the company understands what you put on paper, what you had, is what you really had.
Right.
A vote of confidence, so to speak. My folks had a really, really nice big screen TV. Did they replace that TV? No, they got a smaller TV. And it's frustrating. And I can understand insurance companies. I can understand probate and those things. We've gone through that with relatives. So if someone opts to hire us, wonderful. But if they don't, take the time, sit down with your loved one, and make a list. Because someday it might come back to help you out.
Right. It's one of those things almost that you can take the pictures as well. I know my dad and mother had insurance with Chubb, and they didn't absolutely require it, but it was on their list of things because they came and inspected the home and tried to help their insured. Of course, a little higher end insurance that came. You were paying for it, but they were there, but it was pictures. Because my father called me and asked me to help him take pictures of everything. This is a long time ago.
We had a neighbor when we used to live in Arizona. We had a neighbor across the street, and there wasn't a Tupperware party that she could resist going to, and her house burnt. And honest to God, it looked like the Niagara Falls with the melted Tupperware coming out of it. And the insurance company refused to believe she could own that much. And they actually sent people out to ask the neighbors. And I said, oh, trust me, she had a lot of Tupperware. So they finally, after an ordeal, got repaid for all of the stuff that they lost. But it gives you a little bit of confidence in what you're doing. And God forbid you have a death in the family or something, and you have to come up with a list. The mental anguish you're going through at that particular time is really trying. So you want to make sure that you've got as much information in the event that something happens in your house and you lose a loved one. You don't want to have to be sitting there trying to itemize.
And the upside that also is in the sense that when we're all getting older, you have to start, preparing your will and everything else. A lot of times we did inventories for people so that they knew what to give the children. This way they could break it down. And if either they had discussions with the kids or they'd go through the list later on and say, what do you kids want? Tell us now, we'll let you know. So there's no bloodbath at the end. So it's been very helpful along those lines. And we found that a lot. We work with a lot of family lawyers and some of the different ones that do that exactly. Another thing are vacation rentals. If you're doing B&B, or not B&B, I guess B&B would be the term for it. You have all the property in there. You have people coming in and out. You don't know what you're going to lose if they set the place on fire. Again, you have to be careful about that. And also individual storage buildings, your workshop may be not included in your insurance because that may be a separate building that's covered the building, but are all your tools or all your collectibles, your cars, car collections, things like that. Those are things to keep in mind also. So separate. We did a gentleman's collection of Don Quixote, over 5,000 pieces. I thought I was going to be Don Quixote in the end. And that was in separate storage buildings, and we did 3 sheds of that. So, there's a lot of things out there people don't really think about.
Yeah, and the time to think about them obviously is now.
Yeah.
Well, who or what type of business is competition for y'all? I mean, every business has competition. Who competes with you?
I cannot find anybody here locally. It's kind of if anybody you look at competitions, we get calls. It would be for inventories in stores or building retail businesses because they have to have their tax done and they have to inventory everything, and that's what they thought we did. But otherwise, I think we've only run into one, I think, in our lifetime between here and El Paso that does this kind of business. Now maybe somebody will call up and say, yeah, I would do that too. But it's a unique business because, like I said, it's not something everybody thinks about. And so we're just trying to bring this to everybody's attention here because it's a business I think everybody needs.
Well, I would assume then your competition really is just the people who would use your service. Either they're going to do it themselves,
Yeah.
right, or they're going to engage you as professionals to help guide them through the process
Yes.
and make sure it's done right. So you're basically competing with me as the consumer.
Exactly. And lawyers and also some of the banks, the trust officers, they end up having to send out their staff member, which ends up costing way more money than it does to bring in a service like ours. Plus, we're a third-party service, which gives you a little bit more, if you're doing an inventory and you're trying, especially on big collections, it kind of gives you that third-party strength and the word of what you got. It's not just them reporting everything.
Right. Yeah, that's a wonderful point, though. Well, believe it or not, we're to the end of our first segment. We need to take a commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you've enjoyed our conversation so far. We're going to continue after the break, talk about how they market their business and some other business things they do to make their business the success it is. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
A Lone Star Community Radio is ready for the summer. If you or anyone you know is looking for summer internship opportunities, a Lone Star Community Radio is a great place to grab the mic and be on the air. A Lone Star Community Radio offers a great opportunity to those interested in learning about the radio world all year round. Be an on-air personality, talk show producer, or YouTube, TV, podcast editor. Contact the station at info@irlonestar.com or call the station's message line at 936-647-3776.
Did you know that there are over 153 million orphans in the world today? The sad reality is 99% of those kids will likely never be adopted. Core Love is an organization right here in Conroe that takes care of orphan children in Haiti, Honduras, and India. We bring the love of Jesus by providing their 6 basic needs of clean water, proper food, healthcare, education, job skills, and a loving home. Visit corelove.org, that's CORELUV.org. Will you help defend the orphan?
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Hey, tune in to the Bridge Podcast TX Tuesdays at 11 a.m., where we are connecting commerce with community, interviewing business owners and leaders in the community, allowing the audience to peek behind the curtain of what inspires, motivates, drives these individuals to have meaningful, positive impact in this community. For more information about the show, log into irlonestar.com/TBPTX.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schisler. I'm your host. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and we're having what I consider a great conversation with Bernie and Melissa Sargent, and they're the owners of Sargent Home Inventory Services. Now, Bernie and Melissa, when we went to break, we had talked about your business and why people need to use it. There's a lot of information in that because I learned a lot about this, and I'm one who had a claim, my wife and I did, that was extensive, and thank goodness she had a sort of a list, but I can see the true value in what you guys are talking about. One of the things I always like to talk about when we have our entrepreneurial small business owners on is how you market your business, because that is one of the bigger challenges, particularly, well, any business, but small business, of understanding the efficient, effective way to market. How do you market your business?
A number of ways we go about it. A lot is word of mouth. A lot of it is we do advertising on the different media outlets throughout the areas that we live in and we operate our business in. We have also done some online advertising and doing radio interviews such as this.
Contacted lawyers.
Yeah, we contact the probate lawyers, the various lawyers around the area, and work with them to reach out and offer our services. And then also banks, trusts, and so on. We talk to those folks there. But in El Paso, it was very successful for us because a lot of people knew us.
Yeah, we were well known.
Yeah, we had brand recognition from the get-go because we were very, very involved with the politics and with everything going on in El Paso. So it was very easy to open the doors there. Here in Conroe, Montgomery County, it's a little bit more difficult because we're making friends, and which is not difficult in this community because it's a very friendly community.
Great place.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean it goes back. We come from a long line of sales and marketing, and like anything, you have to get out there and rattle the doors. And that's what we've been doing. Like I said, we've gone out and we've talked to lawyers, we've met some, and we're asking them to help. Do you have some ideas of any other attorneys that might be interested? I just visited with a local agent firm here recently, and they're like, oh, we need your service. So I'm like, well, there you go. I mean, sometimes it's one of those things you kind of keep hitting until finally something breaks, and then that becomes that rolling effect. And I think we're almost there, so.
I'm curious, on marketing, are insurance agents interested in your business?
Mildly.
Mildly, yeah.
I'm surprised too, because you would think that would be something that they would want to offer up to their clients.
Oh, yeah.
And we've not had much luck with insurance agents per se. They all say it's a great idea, but that's as far as it goes with most of them. And to me, I would say, yeah. I mean, here, maybe even work a deal where if we use them as a reference, they get some kind of a referral back, or vice versa.
Right.
So we work on those kinds of offers. Yeah. And then other civic groups. That's another area that we've gotten involved with the Lions, the Rotaries, and all those, giving the presentations to those people so that they grab onto it. But I think word of mouth has been our biggest selling point right now. And it's been good for us. It was in El Paso, and it will be here.
And it's another thing. It's interesting that you're inviting strangers into your home to look at everything you own, to look in your closets, and not everybody wants to show their closet or their cabinets, and it can, like I said, could be very personal. So they have to get to know you and know they can trust you. So there's a factor of building that trust. And I think that was one thing in El Paso. We were so well known in the community, on the radio, and also on TV there. That made a big difference. They already knew who we were. But it takes a little bit of leap of faith, and I understand that.
What about your website? I mean, if I say I am aware of the need for this kind of service, or somebody goes to your website, do you get any leads through your website, or any of that digital marketing, or anything you might do there?
Actually, the website, occasionally you would get items. They more or less go there and look and see, kind of check it out, because it's very detailed in what we do, the process of how we do it, and everything else, because it would take too long to go through here. And we get some leads on that, but not very much. It's more or less, again, this is a personal kind of thing, and I think it's the one-on-one kind of thing, or the referral from somebody who they trust. We've got, I think one of our neighbors is going to do this with us. So just, there you go.
So your website really is a validation, which is
exactly.
Always something I have believed as a business mentor and advisor, is you need to very least have, it doesn't matter if you're in industrial products, you got to have a nice website, so to speak, at least comfortable and looks good, and people understand. And even if it's just 2 or 3 pages, there's no doubt about that. Well, let's kind of open the door to the big question for me is, we have spouses, you're business partners, you work together. You mentioned Melissa's 35 years.
Well, we've been married 41, and
Okay.
we've been in business over 35 years.
So you've worked together for a long time. What's the secret to that success?
2x4.
And the guns are locked up.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we had 2 quick answers there.
No, it has its ups and its downs, but I think I don't know about me, but I think being in sales and all these years, you're used to working in all kinds of different environments, all kinds of different people. And having your own business, it can be scary, especially in the type of business we were going into. Being manufacturer reps, we were 100% commission. So you have to pay all your expenses up front. You have to put it out there, and it takes several years to where you finally make a profit, like most businesses. But being in this kind of business, and we worked in Mexico, so that was even, we worked across the border in Juarez and Chihuahua, the city of Chihuahua, selling our products over there to the manufacturers. So it's been kind of a crazy ride, but it's been fun.
It's been a fun ride. And nothing we had to learn right away, too, is, we both have different personalities. We're a lot alike, but we have different personalities. So we had to understand that her selling point, her strengths with some customers were stronger than mine. And I practiced this in the industry when I was a national marketing and sales manager for a large company, is that I would tell my salesmen, leave your ego at the door. Because you might not be able to get to that customer, but that person over there might be able to. And we will make sure that you don't lose out in the long run, but we don't want to lose a customer for the sake of an ego. And we're the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that would rather deal with her than me, and she's a lot prettier than I am. But, I mean, she also has a personality that some people adapt to, and I have one that some people adapt to. So we had to learn that right from the get-go in our businesses, this one as well as the other business that we had, that we had to kind of give up sometimes, say, look, it's yours, run with it.
Well, I see that from my perspective as a real strength, because you really are giving people two sources, and then you feel what's right. It's almost as simple as, well, do you want me to contact you by email, text, phone, the things that we have to go through today to understand how we're going to be able to reach them. And no, I think that's a real plus, and I think it's well said. Let's switch a little bit over to the area here and doing business. You came to Conroe. Was it a family situation? You came here, or what brought you to Conroe from El Paso?
I won't use the analogy.
No, actually, what it was is we initially were going to be moving. We have a daughter in League City, our grandkids, and another one in Dripping Springs, and we were kind of trying to find a halfway in between to a point that we liked. And we had been to Conroe years ago and rented a lake house. And all the kids came. We all had a great time. We're on the lake, because we grew up on the Pacific coast, and so I missed the water all the time, and so does he. So it was great to be on the lake because it was nice. You could go out boating and everything. So when all these changes came up, and it kind of came up rather quickly in our doing, and I won't go into the long story, but we also had to find a place to move, and it was because we sold our house in 4 days, and we knew we were going to do it, but it was like not quite that fast. And so we came over, and we liked Conroe, and so we were driving around, and we went to a restaurant up in Willis, and there was two policemen there, and Bernie went over to thank them for their service, and then he asked me, he said, well, what's a good area to live? We don't really know. We've been driving around, and it was rainy and everything else, and the gentleman says, oh, you don't want to live here. You need to go to Panorama Village. We're like, Panorama Village? It sounded like a residence, a senior residence. And so he told us where it was. We drove around there, and he was the police chief for Panorama Village. So he's kind of spoiled with that area. And he introduced us to it. We drove around, couldn't find any place that we wanted to buy, and then it ended up a few weeks later, we kind of get to where we had to move one place or another, and we got a rental here in Panorama Village. So we've been renting for a year, and we just really like it. We like the area. There's so much to do. We've been to the lake. We've gone out on the lake a couple of times. We've gone up to Huntsville. And so funny, people go, you drive that far or you go through that traffic? Well, having lived in El Paso, everything was so far from us. It was 6 hours to Phoenix. It was 10 hours to Austin. It was 5.5 hours to get to Santa Fe. So and Mexico, which was right across the border. We go to Chihuahua. That was 300 miles south. So it was kind of fun to be someplace where we could go places for a day.
Well, there's definitely a lot to do around here. My family, my wife and I moved here 8 years ago. We came from Houston. We're both raised there in Houston, born and raised. So, but it's the amazing amount of growth that I'm witnessing. It reminds me of Houston, Harris County 20, 30 years ago. And it's just pushing. Let me ask you, how do you find the general business climate here? I mean, it's a fast-growing area, no doubt about it. But for your business, not necessarily a startup, 2010, but you came to the area new, so in a sense it was a startup. How have you found the business climate in general for your business?
The people are very welcoming. I like that. We found El Paso to be a very friendly place also. But this particular area, we like it a lot. The folks have been very warm. And we have a passion for heritage and culture, and there's a lot of it here. So that particular area of Montgomery County has been very welcoming. We both volunteered an immense amount of time with the Southwest history. I've written some articles and a couple of books and things like that on the Southwest history, and as soon as the people hear that, they go, "Ooh," but that aside, the business people themselves, downtown, for instance, Conroe, I admire the Main Street program. It's wonderful what they've done down here. And all the folks we've talked to and all the stores we've gone into, and we've gone into a lot of them, have been very warm and friendly and very receptive to talking and meeting and introducing us to their friends. So it's a great place.
Great place to start a business.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Also, a couple of businesses have let us put our brochures in for it just to be nice. There's no cost or anything else, so they let us put us brochures, so they're different places. And I mean, also, what's interesting is this is a cross section. You have manufacturing, you have an executive airport here, mom and pop businesses, small chains, very, very diverse product here. I mean, going from here over to Lake Conroe is amazing. The different types of business you see going along Davis Street.
It is amazing to me as a business person, because I grew up and owned my own business, grew up in a family business, is Conroe really, in a number of ways, is preparing for the growth, for the future.
Yeah.
Airport's one of those. I mean,
Oh my
that
gosh.
airport has a lot of growth in it, already taking care of the facilities, the runways, all that. And so just so well located. And the lake, I mean, think about that big lake out there as a recreational facility. So we live and work in the area, and we can get to the lake.
It has water in it too, which is
Yeah.
It does. That's always kind of an issue, I think, around here, but that's another story. Well, as we kind of wind down, I would like to ask you to share with us, as I like to with all my business owner, entrepreneur guests, please share the one piece of advice you would give someone who is thinking about starting a business. You've done it at least twice that we've discussed today. What would be your one pearl of wisdom, if you would, that you would give someone who's considering starting their own business?
Patience.
absolutely. You have to have the patience of Job to do this,
Yeah.
and a willingness to work. You had mentioned in the beginning of your program, your monologue, about time. Time is something that is very important. It's going to take time, and it's not something where people are going to say, "Yeah, come on in. Here's a check." Not at all. So you've got to be patient. You've got to be willing to sacrifice a little bit. You know, we were both making very good money working for other people at one time. We gave that up and starved ourselves for a couple of years to start our own businesses. But it's been very rewarding. We've been blessed in that we've had a lot of support, a lot of friends. We've met people like yourself who have welcomed us into the fold, so to speak, and allowed us to talk with the folks out there in Montgomery County. I mean, we love it. And I think patience, time, and a commitment.
And don't tell your children when they're just graduating from high school you're starting a business.
Which we did. We
But
can help
you
you
know
write
what?
the grant requests.
They both put, grants, and they both put themselves through college, and they're both successful today. And, I think a lot of it had to do with seeing us do this.
Right.
So, it was, I'll never forget that. What?
We actually employed our daughters.
Yeah.
She was in the band at school, and they needed to make money. So, we were doing repackaging for Rockwell Industries. And we had a house, dining room, a kitchen, living room full of packages. And we had the kids from the band come in, and they made some extra money for band by repackaging for us. So, I mean, you do anything you can to make a buck, to get the business going. And just, you got to be a friend of your potential clients out there. You may not love everybody, but you've got to be a friend.
Yeah,
And
lots and lots of opportunity.
Absolutely.
But it is a change. And I guess at the end of the day, what's important to most people I talk to, and I found out it was really important to me, was I'm in control. In other words, it's my business, good or bad. Got to make that payroll, but the payoff and the ability, like the band, to do that, there's something about that you're able to do that if you're working somewhere else, you probably couldn't have done. So
Absolutely.
it is totally interesting. I encourage it. And thank you all so much for coming in and visiting with us. You've got I think, a business that there's definitely a need for. Everyone needs to do what you're talking about. and I would encourage people to reach out to you. If they want to do that, what's the best way?
Well, you can call us at 915-241-7406. And we're also establishing, and I do not have the number with me, a local office number that's coming up soon, so we'll have that too. But in the meantime, it takes you directly to Bernie's cell. Also, you can reach us at our website, which is www.sargentinventoryservices.com. And a lot of information there, kind of explains everything that we do and has a contact form. You can get a hold of us there.
Well, Bernie and Melissa, thank you so much. Wonderful story. Thank you for sharing it with our listeners as well as myself. Always neat to have people and hear their stories. I'm blessed to do this for 8 years. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that there will be a podcast of today's show posted by Wednesday of this week, and it'll be out there available. If you didn't catch something, you want to re-listen to some part of the show, or I'd love it, share it with people. Share it with other business people that you might know. What's coming up in the second half of the show? We're going to go back to the mailbag. Sarah and David sent an email recently, and they wrote, "We recently were successful in getting the business of a very large company. Now our company seems really pressed to meet this customer's needs. What do we need to do to successfully integrate their business into ours?" Now, that's a question that comes to many, many growing small businesses, and there's some steps you need to take, and we're going to talk about them. And I'll end the program with my one best consult tip of the week: taxes, taxes, and more taxes. Can you believe that? So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out ourlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your questions. Get seen on TV, YouTube, and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Support your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Want to check out the fastest growing sport in the world? It's right here in Conroe, Texas, and it's roller derby. Conroe Roller Derby is a non-profit recreational league of women and men who want you to come and check out the fast-paced, hard-hitting game of roller derby. The Conroe Cutthroats practice at Rainbow Roller Rink on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. You can find our game schedule and more information on our website, www.conroerollerderby.com.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available in Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Have a legal question? Are you a resident of Montgomery County? Call 281-645-6344 to talk to a volunteer attorney from the Woodlands Bar Association. We answer the phones on the first Monday of every month at 281-645-6344 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. to provide general legal information and information about legal resources to Montgomery County residents.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schisler. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. Thank you again for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed the program so far. If you're just tuning in, we're going to go to the mailbag here in a minute, but I want to remind you, a podcast of today's program will be available in a couple, 3 days. You can find it here on the website of Lone Star Community Radio. That's irlonestar.com, irlonestar.com, or on our Facebook page, YouTube page. Find the Weekly Business Hour page, and you will be able to click and listen to the program as a podcast. The other thing I want to remind you too is if you're listening and you're here in the Conroe, Montgomery County area, I would encourage you to consider being a sponsor of the program. Lone Star Community Radio is a nonprofit community radio station that serves all of Montgomery County, and so a donation in the name of the Weekly Business Hour, you will be a sponsor. Your name will be mentioned as a sponsored, and so you will be connected with the Weekly Business Hour, which isn't all that bad, let me assure you of that. Well, let's go to the mailbag. As I mentioned before we went to break, Sarah and David sent us an email, and basically they stated, "We recently were successful in getting the business of a very large company. Now our company seems really pressed to meet this customer's needs. What do we need to do to successfully integrate their business into ours?" Probably most of you, if not all of you, have heard what can end up as a horror story, where a small business, gets a piece of business, typically from a larger company, larger than theirs, and it becomes such a big part of their business that problems and issues happen. When I was growing up, friends, my parents had a local, very successful business, and they took on a very large national company as an account. It began to dominate eventually 30, 40% or more of their business, and then one day that business pulled out and took their business elsewhere because they were always shopping for the best price. And it was devastating. Now, these people survived, but I got a firsthand look at what it can do to a company. So we have to consider that. But there's several things that I think when you have this kind of situation, it doesn't mean you don't go for the business, but you've got to be careful and I believe do certain things. The first thing is watch out for fatigue, personal fatigue of you trying as the owner to balance all those balls, you wear all those hats, you do all those jobs. And as you grow, you do fewer and fewer, but still fatigue can set in for you because you're probably going to be working longer because you got to keep up with all the other work you had. Plus you got to integrate this new piece of business in and then service it, which means you're probably going to have a lot more points of contact, et cetera, et cetera. Also the fatigue of your employees. If they're going to be working longer hours to fill the needs of this new customer, and the fatigue on your business. You've got processes, systems that in some cases are going to have to be adjusted. So it's very important that you consider the fatigue and watch those hours. One of the things that kind of comes around about and can hit you as an owner, you want to take a little bit of time off, but now you've got so much business you don't feel like you can do it. So it kind of boxes you in. So be aware of those things. Balancing of quality and growth. Now you've got the growth. You've added the big account. What is it going to do to the quality standard you have within the company? It's at first, at least, it's going to push that quality down simply because you're adding so much business. Yes, you can ramp up, you can add people, you can add equipment, you can have a larger inventory, all these things, but they all take time. So in the meantime, if not the entire time, your general overall quality of the service you deliver, your responsiveness, even the products, if you manufacture products, can be tremendously affected by this situation. So it's very, very important that you be aware of this. And as you scale up, do your best to maintain a quality level. May not be as high as it was when you were smaller, but you can grow back to it. You can build back to it but you've got to have a plan and you've got to be patient. Just like the Sargents, our guest earlier today, you have to have that patience. So it's a very important thing that when you take on a big piece of business, Sarah, you and David take on this kind of business, it's possible. You can do it, but you need to be prepared. We're going to take our final break of the day. When we come back, I'm going to give you our Best Consult tip of the week, taxes, taxes, taxes. Be right back.
Second Saturday Divorce Workshop provides unbiased information to help you understand your options and move forward with your life. This divorce workshop is for you if you are contemplating divorce, in the process of divorce, already filed for divorce, or post-divorce. You will explore the emotional, legal, and financial aspects of divorce from professionals who have guided others through divorce. For more information on this divorce workshop, contact SecondSaturdayWoodlands.com or call 832-375-0900.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show. With monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Hey, tune in to the Bridge Podcast TX Tuesdays at 11 a.m., where we are connecting commerce with community, interviewing business owners and leaders in the community, allowing the audience to peek behind the curtain of what inspires, motivates, drives these individuals to have meaningful, positive impact in this community. For more information about the show, log into irlonestar.com/TBPTX.
Vell Institute, a 501c3 nonprofit, began in 2014 with a mission to strengthen the future of veterans through leadership and entrepreneurship training. We've invested over 1,400 hours of training in our veterans while connecting them with community entrepreneurs and leaders. Our mission is to continue investing in our veterans who have given so much for our country. Please join us in our mission by visiting vellinstitute.org. That's VELinstitute.org.
Don't miss Lone Star Community Radio on TV and YouTube. Our talk show and music shows are featured on Our City TV, Suddenlink Channel 12, and have their own YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with posted shows and comment on them below the video.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Does volunteering at a nonprofit horse sanctuary sound wonderful? Or are you a veteran or a veteran spouse and think trying a peer group session through a local Horses and Heroes equine program might be worth trying? Henry's Home Horse and Human Sanctuary, located in Grand Central Park by appointment only, is home to a growing number of rescued and donated horses. Visit our website at henryshomehorsesanctuary.org or check out our Facebook at Henry's Home Horse and Human Sanctuary for more information.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Looks like we've run out of time. I'm going to put that One Best Consult tip of the week, taxes, and more taxes, on hold. But I wanted to thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with the Sargents. Very interesting business. Encourage you to check them out. I think it would help anybody and everybody I know to have a good inventory of your business. And also, as always, the coming week, stay engaged and keep the focus on what's important and really counts in your business. Thanks.